Adnan, thank you very much, and welcome to O.co, the Coliseum here, the home of the Oakland Athletics. It's a beautiful evening for a baseball game as the A's make their first appearance on Sunday Night Baseball in 9 years here at home, and it's brought to you, of course, by Taco Bell. This is an incredibly meaningful game for these two teams. The A's have taken the first two of this series from the Angels and have moved into a tie with Mike Trout and the Angels atop the American League West. In fact, these two teams not only are tied for their divisional lead, they are tied for the best record in all of baseball. It will be no easy task for the Angels to win tonight. One of the tougher left-handers around, Scott Casmir, is on the mound for the A's. As mentioned, they're tied atop the division right now, with the A's winning the first two of this series. They've still got 7 more after tonight against one another, and the all-important divisional crown is on the line. Nobody wants to take their chances in a one-game wild-card playoff game. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Oakland. Dan Schulman and John Kruk. The city woke up to an earthquake today. It was actually centered about 40 miles north of here, just north of Napa. Over 100 injuries, 6 of them critically, a lot of property damage. The strongest earthquake in Northern California since the earthquake in the World Series in 1989. And we certainly send our best wishes to everyone affected by the quake for a speedy, speedy recovery. The baseball game will go on. The ballpark is full tonight for the Angels and A's. The Angels are dealing, of course, with a significant injury. Garrett Richards, one of their top pitchers, their top pitcher, is out for the season after a serious knee injury. That puts more of the spotlight on a guy who's used to it in Jared Weaver.
Yeah, he's used to being the ace of the staff. He's been that way since his career basically started with the Angels. Garrett Richards, of course, taking that mantle from him this year. But if you're Mike Scioscia, this is the guy you want on the mound. Even though he struggled against Oakland in his 2 starts this year, an ERA over 7, Jarrett Weaver's a guy that you know is going to go out and give you 100% effort. He's going to give you what you need. And when they lose the first 2 games of the series, you can't ask for a better guy to have on the mound than for the Angels than Jarrett Weaver.
For the Oakland A's, they've had really a magnificent season. Just one little glitch. They had lost 8 of 10 before the first 2 games of this series, and it seems they can put an all-star caliber pitcher on the mound any given night, and tonight is no exception as Scott Casmir goes for win number 15.
Yeah, they got a whole bunch of guys who could be aces in a lot of other teams. And Scott Casmir is a guy 2 years ago was playing in the Independent League for the Sugarland Skeeters. Now, after signing with Cleveland last year, this year in the offseason, targeted by Bob Melvin, Billy Beane, and the Oakland A's as the guy they wanted, and he's rewarded them. Already a career high in wins, 9th in the American League in ERA, and another guy that fits a postseason pitcher with power.
It's a very unique environment here at O.co Coliseum. It's a rowdy crowd tonight. It is a big crowd, and one of our own, Dallas Braden, a Baseball Tonight analyst and a former member of the A's, a guy who threw a perfect game a few years back. He'll be out with the crowd telling us what it's like to be a member of the Oakland A's and play in this ballpark as the game's best player, Mike Trout, tries to salvage the final game of the series for his Angels. ESPN Sunday Night Baseball is presented by Taco Bell. Sometimes you gotta live Mas. And in part by Budweiser, the official beer of Major League Baseball. Here's to Budweiser, here's to baseball. And Xerox, the company that simplifies the way work gets done. A gorgeous day here right now, late afternoon in Oakland, and they are fired up for their A's to take on the Angels. But unfortunately, some injuries for the Oakland Athletics. Buster Olney has the latest.
Yeah, because of injuries, the Oakland Athletics have been scrambling with roster moves today. First, All-Star closer Sean Doolittle has been placed on the disabled list because of a strain in his side. Dan Otero was called up from the minor leagues to replace him on the roster. Manager Bob Melvin is not definitive about who's going to step in as closer. And earlier today, the Athletics acquired catcher Giovanni Soto from the Texas Rangers. That's because they don't know when they're going to get back John Jaso. Catcher John Jaso's headed to the disabled list because of concussion problems. Dan, back to you.
All right, Buster, thank you. So a lot of moving pieces right now for the A's as Mike Scioscia and the Angels. A couple of tough losses, 5-3 and 2-1 to drop into a first-place tie with the A's atop the American League West. Shadows are going to be a factor. It may be a very tough situation for hitters at times tonight. As we are underway with the first pitch strike from Casmir to Cole Calhoun. Mike Everett's the home plate umpire. Adrian Johnson at first. The crew chief Bill Miller at second, and Chad Fairchild manning third. Lefty on lefty. As Calhoun takes strike two, Mike Scioscia calling him one of the most underrated players in the American League.
Well, without question, and he really solidified that leadoff spot for the Angels, getting on base, hitting for power, playing a great right field. But he's everything you could want out of a leadoff hitter.
And the 0-2 is bounced up the middle and into center field. A leadoff base hit for Calhoun. Let's check out the starting lineup for the Angels tonight. Presented by Taco Bell. And Mike Scioscia with Calhoun atop the lineup. Mike Trout hitting in his familiar two-spot. Pujols, Hamilton. Howie Kendrick DHing tonight. Recently acquired Gordon Beckham will get a start at second base. The Angels don't have a true DH. Last night, Freese DH'd. So they can give guys partial days off and work Beckham into the lineup, especially against a lefty.
Yeah, and especially to get rest for Ibar and Howie Kendrick, who Mike Scioscia told us have basically been out there every single day. And, you know, a day off for Howie Kendrick means he's probably going to get 4 at bats, but he's not going to have to run on the field.
Tell us about Mike Trout's night last night. You don't often see 0 for 4, 3 strikeouts.
Well, total domination by John Lester, and he pitched him perfectly. And again, up in the strike zone is where John Lester attacked him.
What does Casmir learn from watching Lester last night?
Well, if he makes a mistake down, he's going to make you pay, like Sonny Gray did in Friday's game when he hit the home run off of him in the first inning on a breaking ball down. But John Lester kept the ball up. And
bouncer up the middle, 1 and 2. Eric Sogard handling it nicely in the middle infield to turn the double play.
I'm assuming this would be the only way you can double up Mike Trout. You see the ball deflected off Scott Casmir's glove to slow it down to let Sogard's get it. But look at Sogard's, how he circled that ball, got it coming in, so his momentum was going towards second base. And that way he can step and make the throw simultaneously and just get Trout by a half a step.
So 2 down, nobody on, and here's Albert Pujols hitting .272 with 23 home runs. And a high chopper to third. It's going to be a very quick inning for Scott Casmir. He threw only 6 pitches to get his 3 outs. The double play helped, and the A's will be coming up against Jared Weaver when we come back. ESPN Sunday Night Baseball, presented by Taco Bell, is brought to you by Bayer Back and Body, the official pain reliever of MLB, and Dick's Sporting Goods. Visit ESPN Fan Shop, powered by Dick's Sporting Goods, for your officially licensed fan gear. John Kruk, Buster Olney, Dallas Braden, I'm Dan Schulman, back with you here in Oakland. Bob Melvin and the Oakland A's coming up in the bottom of the first inning. The starting lineup for the A's is brought to you by Taco Bell. Coco Crisp, who's DHing tonight, will lead off. The outfield is full in center tonight with Crisp DHing. Moss in left, Reddick in right. Norris is the catcher. And no Josh Donaldson for the A's tonight, battling a bit of a sore knee, so he's out of the lineup. The versatile Alberto Callaspo's at third, and it's a key word for the A's. They're versatile in a number of different ways.
Yeah, and that's what makes, even though Josh Donaldson's probably the guy with the biggest bat in this lineup, along with Brandon Moss, of course, when he does play, but they have guys who can mix and match and move around. Callaspo's a guy who can play anywhere in the infield. And this is how this team is built, and this is why they can withstand some injuries, but they can't withstand Donaldson being out for long.
A little pop up to short, and Ibar battles the Sun to make the catch, one down. So we mentioned the injury to Garrett Richards, one of the most significant injuries really that a team has suffered this year. I mean, a guy who should have been an all-star, put up some of the best numbers in the American League this year. Torn patellar tendon, surgery, out 6 to 9 months. Jared Weaver's used to being a number one. It's not just about can Weaver be a number one, but everybody's got to move up a notch in the rotation.
Yeah, everyone has to move up. But, the thing I liked about Mike Sochi, he said this isn't going to galvanize our team. This is a devastating loss. And it's not like you can tell a guy, hey, you have to step up. Guys know what they have to do. Jared Weaver knows what he has to do. He knows that if he tries to go out and overthrow and become Garrett Richards and try to throw the ball by people, he's going to get hurt.
The batter is Sam Fuld, getting a start in center field tonight. Was reacquired by the A's from Minnesota for Tommy Milone. After all the trades the A's made when they had an excess of pitching, and they had traded away Cespedes, the Fuld-Gomes combination was acquired in 2 separate deals. And Fuld is not known as a huge hitter, but has had a very big hit in this series. Had an RBI triple on Friday night. And again, the A's put people in position to succeed. Fuld will rarely ever face a lefty. Craig Gentry will rarely ever face a righty. They really make the most out of the matchups. Pinch hit a lot, platoon a lot. As he skies one into right field. Boy, everything is an adventure right now for outfielders. Calhoun with the glasses on makes the catch, 2 down.
Yeah, this is what 5 o'clock brings. Right now, the shadows aren't a factor for hitters, but the sun is a factor to the outfielders. And you saw Cole Calhoun not only with the sunglasses, but actually using the glove, old style right there, to block the sun from his eyes. And it's the only way you have a chance. And that's why outfielders mostly have open web gloves, so you can kind of peek through them.
Here's Stephen of Oaks. And listen to them. They love Stephen Vogt here. This is a really, really unique baseball crowd. It's got a bit of a soccer feel to it. Got a bit of a college football feel to it.
An Oakland Raiders feel to it at times.
Yeah. Instead of I believe that we will win, which we all heard so much this summer, I believe in Stephen Vogt. And it's not like their energy tapers off in the middle innings. I mean, they go the distance here. They don't always get big crowds, but the people, and they've got a big one tonight, but the people who do come, they're fired up.
Yeah, they're very loud. And, we had the opportunity to sit in our production meeting with Dallas Braden, who played years here, played a few years here, and that's what he said, that he said even if it's not big, it's still going to be loud. But it's big tonight, and it's going to be loud.
Yep. The A's, of course, the 2-time defending American League West Division champs, and so much on the line this year between the A's and Angels to win the division and avoid the 1-game playoff. And the A's winning the first 2. They are extra wound up here tonight in Oakland.
Especially with a chance to sweep them. Sure, they're excited. Get back in first place on their own.
And another ball in the air. This one to left center. Josh Hamilton will make the catch. Josh Hamilton will lead it off. We're through an inning in Oakland. No score between the Angels and the A's. Top second here at O.Co Coliseum, the home of the A's. No score between the Angels and the Athletics. Scott Casmir on the mound for Oakland. He'll face Josh Hamilton, who was given a couple of days off about a week ago for Mike Scioscia. He had really been scuffling. Hamilton can be as hot as anybody, but he can also scuffle as much as anybody. And Scioscia sat him down. In 5 games since, he's 4 for 16, .250 average, including a home run that came on Friday.
Yeah, and it's the thing with Josh Hamilton. He's notorious for swinging out of the zone. And it just seems like the last few games that I've watched him play, well, this weekend against Oakland, he has been a little more selective and not swinging at pitches like that one that probably 2 weeks ago he would have swung at and hit either a weak grounder or pop up somewhere.
3-0 green light, and he hits a sinking liner to left center field. Cut off on the edge of the track by Fuld, and he does a nice job to hold Hamilton to a long single. That ball was scorched.
That's what Mike Scioscia told us he loved about what he's doing right now, especially against lefties, is not pulling off, taking ball the other way. And even with the 3-0 count, see that pitch is even down out of the strike zone, but he still was able to get down and get it, hit that hard line drive like you said. And Dan, you're right, Sam Fuld made an unbelievable play, but he got the toe tap. You see his timing is perfect. He's right on that ball, stays down in the zone. He's not pulling off. If that's the Josh Hamilton they're going to have the rest of the year, then the Angels offense should really get rolling here.
On the season, both of these teams have been excellent offensively, right near the top of the Major League Baseball, but neither one of them has been as good offensively recently. The Angels, in fact, have scored the fewest runs in the American League since the All-Star break. So a pretty good stretch of time. The batter was Howie Kendrick, hitting .283, shows bunt, and he pulls the bat back. The count is 1-1.
Well, I don't think it's any coincidence that the Angels struggled to score runs after the break, and it coincides with Mike Trout's probably worst 2 weeks, 3 weeks of his big league career.
And the A's traded away Yoenis Cespedes to get John Lester, so they lost their cleanup hitter. And guys like Brandon Moss, Josh Donaldson have struggled recently as well. 2-1 on Kendrick.
Well, Howie Kendrick has the ability to hit the ball the other way. Josh Hamilton on first base. 2-1. You're probably not going to run him right here, but if it goes 3-1, it wouldn't surprise me if Mike Scioscia puts Josh Hamilton in motion.
Outside, 3-1. You can see the shadows are creeping toward home plate. They don't play a lot of 5 o'clock local time games here. As we mentioned, this is the first Sunday night game here since 2005. So as Bob Melvin said, other than the playoffs, when would they play a 5 o'clock game?
I think that's why you saw guys swinging early, especially for the Angels in that first inning, because you might not be able to see your next at bat.
And Casmir in a little bit of hot water here in the second. First and second, nobody out. He's had a great year. He was an all-star. He had a good year for Cleveland last year. Parlayed that into a 2-year deal for $22 million. And has certainly lived up to that and then some this year. Joined in the rotation by Sonny Gray. Still probably not a household name, but one of the game's better pitchers and a great competitor. And then, of course, the acquisition of Jeff Samardzija, who came along with Jason Hamill, and John Lester. This is a great rotation.
It really is. And, you talk about Sonny Gray and, how with the stuff that he possesses, but you can't tell me that John Lester is not going to be a big influence to Sonny Gray and Jeff Samardzija. Look at him right there, all around John Lester. Okay, you won 2 world championships. Tell us how we do it. That's why you bring a guy of John Lester's ilk.
Yep.
So this, you like that word, don't you?
Like that.
Yeah.
I haven't heard you.
I almost said something else, could have got fired, but.
Well, the A's rather set it up so that they would have Gray, Lester, and Casmir pitching in this series. And by all accounts, on Wednesday they're going to perhaps call up Drew Pomeranz. They haven't announced their starter for Wednesday. Remember, they're going to Anaheim for a 4-game series starting Thursday, and they'll have the same 3 guys plus Samardzija for that 4-game series. So the A's have really lined up their pitching the way that they want to. 0-2 on David Freese, who takes down and in as we go down to Buster.
Guys, you were talking about the influence of John Lester. Pitching coach Kurt Young told me that he's been very open since he got here. In fact, he was very open before he got here. Scott Casmir actually learned how to throw the cutter he's throwing tonight from John Lester when Lester was still with the Red Sox.
Buster, thank you. Some pitchers with terrific stuff in this Oakland rotation. Here's the 1-2, and it misses down and in. 2-2 on Freese, who has been hot. He's hitting .333 over his last 22 games. Remember, he got off to a dreadful start with the Angels this year, but he has heated up, and as all baseball fans know, he's certainly capable of big things. Just think back to the World Championship with the Cardinals.
Yeah, he had a couple good games there, didn't he?
Yeah.
Wow.
2 on, nobody out. 2-2. Pops him up. Infield fly rule is in effect as the catch is made, 1 down. So with the 1 out now, Eric Ibar, the Angels shortstop. And Mike Scioscia full of praise, although Kendrick's DHing tonight, for his middle infield combo, Kendrick and Ibar, what they've done offensively and what they've done defensively. And Ibar's hot. Often overlooked, really, but a guy who's hit all over the lineup, and he's been here a long time.
Been here a long time. He's hit first in this lineup. He's hit second. He's hit fifth. He's hit sixth. Yeah, and very a great defender, like Mike Scioscia said. But he said, I haven't seen the National League middle infields that much. He said, but I don't think anyone's as good as my two. And he might be right. Not only are they good players, good defenders, they post up seemingly every day.
First pitch swinging, fly ball, center field, deep, full back, jumps, and it's off the wall, stays in play. 1 run is home. Kendrick around third, heading home, will beat the relay throw, and it's a 2-run double for Eric Ibar as the Angels take the lead. And Ibar's pointing out there as if he thought maybe that ball went over the fence. Fultz still looking back at the fence, wondering exactly what happened. But for the moment, at least, it's a 2-run double for Ibar and the Angels.
You see Mike Scioscia's on the top step, acting like he wants to come out and ask about it, because Ibar was certain it went over, and it looked kind of funny watching it live. It looked like Sam Fold. It looked like it did hit something behind and bounce back. If not, I think Sam Fold might have caught it. Did it hit the top of the wall? Looks like it hit the top of the wall.
Yep, right off the top of the wall. Just missed it by a few inches. And another rocket, this one by Ibar, and the Angels have a 2-run lead.
And this is exactly what the Angels need, to get out front early before the shadows start taking over, because it looks like it's going to be another inning or so before those shadows take over. That could be 2 or 3, 4 innings without having difficulty seeing at the plate. But again, you talk about Eric Ibar. Comes up big when they need him.
55 RBIs for Eric Ibar. And a 2-0 lead for the Angels. The batter is their number 8 hitter, their catcher, Chris Iannetta, hitting .262, 5 home runs. He'll take a walk on one of the better on-base percentages in the American League. And now Casmir wants a chat with Norris.
I mean, he's not a big guy. He's not a power guy, but I mean, that's just absolute perfect timing. Look at the leg, the stiff front leg, the back leg bent and through, pushing off on that back leg, and look how close Sam Fold comes to this ball. That might be why he was looking back. He's probably looking back thinking, why didn't I catch that? He usually makes those plays.
Alexi Ramirez is the only catcher, only shortstop rather, in the American League with more runs driven in than Eric Ibar. Casmir misses again to fall behind a 3-0 on Iannetta.
Scott Casmir doesn't have it tonight. So far, his location's been off. I mean, even his misses are bad misses, not non-competitive misses where guys don't even have to offer at him.
A 4-pitch walk to the number 8 hitter. Casmir has not faced the Angels this season prior to tonight. And he's going to get a visit from pitching coach Curt Young. More Major League action coming your way this week. Tomorrow night it'll be the Yankees in Kansas City to take on the first place Royals. Although KC lost to Texas today, they're still on top of the American League Central. Then the Yankees and Tigers, the team trying to chase them down in the Central on Wednesday Night Baseball. And we'll be in Kansas City 1 week from tonight as the Cleveland Indians come to town. The Indians picked up a win today as they're trying to stay in the race in the American League. They beat Houston 3-1. And you can see the ball to strike ratio for Scott Casmir is far less than ideal.
Far less than ideal.
Not very good.
No, not at all.
Not very good.
I don't know what your definition of ideal is, but
far less than ideal. Here's Gordon Beckham. And a fly ball into left field. The catch is made by Moss for the second out. Boy, everything's going to be a challenge here, Crucky, initially for the fielders and imminently for the hitters.
Yeah, the sun is almost directly above our booth, and that means it's shining right down in the outfielder's eyes. And I don't think there's an outfielder that is not going to be affected by it just yet.
The 2 down and back to the top of the order for Calhoun, who had a base hit his first time up. The Tigers, by the way, managed a split of that 4-game series with Minnesota. They beat the Twins 13-4 today in a crazy series. There were 73 runs scored in the 4 games.
They scored how many today?
The Tigers scored 13.
13. They probably still got outscored in the series 50-2.
42-31. They gave up 20 on Thursday.
That was awful.
Or 20 Friday. 12 in the first game yesterday. Then they won 8-6. Today they won 13-4. Max Scherzer, by the way, won his 15th game, so he's one ahead of Scott Casmir for the American League lead. Safe at second is Ibar. So with Detroit winning and Kansas City losing, the Royals are now 2 games up on the Tigers for the lead in the American League Central.
That's what the hard thing about this time of year is you know, when you're playing teams that they know they're out of it, they really have nothing to lose. I don't know why there's 2 outs. I don't know why Scott Casmir is so concerned with Eric Ibar. So if he steals, he steals. So what? You get Calhoun out, it doesn't matter. But you don't want to take your attention off of Calhoun because he already made a mistake 0-2 on him his first at bat, and you got to base it up the middle.
Oh, and 2. One of the more impressive numbers on Scott Casmir this year is what he does to hitters when they have 2 strikes. And this doesn't just mean 0-2. It means 0-2 or 1-2 or 2-2 or 3-2. He holds them, Crucky, to a 137 average once he gets to 2 strikes on a hitter. Amazingly, there are 3 pitchers better than that in the American League. But
well, I think the key for any pitcher is to get 0-2.
But even that includes 3-2.
Yeah. Well,
any 2-strike count.
That means he has the ability to put you away. And just what I'm seeing the first 2 innings, though, I don't know if he has that put away pitch just yet. His command is off. I mean, that's an 0-2 pitch that, you know, if you're thinking you want Cole Calhoun to swing on that pitch, you got to get it so it doesn't bounce in the dirt 8 inches off the plate.
Stepping out's not going to quiet the crowd here. Only going to fire them up even more.
Mike Trout's hoping Cole Calhoun gets on because here comes the shadows. Get your at-bats now.
Runner is going, and it is lined softly to left field. A fair ball. Ibar will score. Ionette is going to be held at third on an opposite field double for Calhoun that gives the Angels a 3-0 lead.
Surprised that Ibar was off and running with 2 strikes. 1-2 pitch, but there's another pitch right there by Scott Casmir. 1-2, and he can't put Cole Calhoun away. Pretty much a fastball down the middle, down in the strike zone, but in the center of the plate. And when you're 2 strikes, all you're doing is protecting, and you protect, you'll get those little flares over the infielder's head every once in a while. And of course, with Calhoun's speed, that's a flare for a double. Ibar running, he scores easily. And now, here we go, Mike Trout.
And a fastball just below the belt for a strike. Trout grounded into a double play his first time up. That was the 25th pitch of the inning thrown by Casmir. There is a base open, but Albert Pujols is on deck as the shadows creep over the plate into fair territory. That ball's hooked foul, like a changeup there from Casmir, and Trout's out in front.
Yeah, it was a changeup, but it was a changeup down, and I mean, he got a good piece of the bat on that ball and just hooked it foul. Not going to surprise me if there's 2 or 3 fastballs elevated right here to see if Mike Trout will swing through it.
Trout, great numbers on balls down in the zone and bad numbers on balls up in the zone. So Casmir, who knows the numbers as well as anybody, goes upstairs, but Trout won't chase.
Don't be surprised if it's back up there again. I mean, this is, when you watch John Lester's approach to him yesterday, that's what he did. He just kept throwing up in the strike zone.
And it's a called third strike up in the zone. Trout doesn't like the call. Casmir doesn't like the inning, though, as the Angels get 3. One of the liveliest parts of this ballpark is the right field bleachers. They don't sit, they don't rest, and you might be able to see Dallas Braden out there, Baseball Tonight analyst. There he is waving. He's the Natalie attired guy. Wave one more time, Dallas. And he's a former member of the Oakland A's. Also a Northern California guy from Stockton, California. And we're going to bring Dallas in on the show next half inning. He can tell us a little bit about what it's like out of the bleachers and what it's like to play in front of this kind of a crowd. I think generally when people think of the crowds here, they think of small numbers. And at times that's true.
Yes.
But those who come are louder than a lot of crowds twice their size in other stadiums in baseball.
This is one of the first ballparks where we pull in 4 or 5 hours before the game, and the parking lot had a ton of cars in it already.
A little tailgating.
It's an event, and what more can you ask for? I'd rather have a smaller crowd that's into it than a big crowd that's not. And we've been to those ballparks, haven't we?
And tonight is a big crowd. Now, they do have tarps that cover the upper deck. They do this during the regular season all the time. So a big crowd here. Well, this is the only stadium in baseball that houses both a Major League Baseball team and an NFL team. So, and it has certainly changed the feel. This is many years ago now, obviously, but it has certainly changed the feel of this ballpark. But as you can see, the lower 2 decks are full. This is a big series. I mean, this is a huge series between the Angels and A's for a number of reasons. Everybody knows if you don't win the division, you got to play in a 1-game wild card playoff. And how would you like to win, say, 98 games, not win your division, and then have to go against, say, Felix Hernandez in Seattle or Max Scherzer in Detroit in a 1-game playoff?
But I think that's the advantage that Oakland and the Angels don't have. And that disadvantage that they're in fighting for the division, because they're going to go down to the end of the season trying to win a division. If you're Seattle, let's say, hypothetical, we're not saying Seattle's in, but let's say you're Seattle and 3, 4 games out of the wild card that you're in as a wild card team, why would you pick Felix Hernandez in any of those games? Wait for that wild card game and pitch him in Oakland and And the Angels, they might have to pitch Jared Weaver or John Lester the last day of the season, and now you lose your ace for the playoffs.
You could easily foresee a situation where, again, the Mariners, hypothetically speaking, have Hernandez, lined up for the final Sunday of the season. Because if it's a do-or-die game, they pitch him on the last Sunday of the season. But if they don't need him, then he pitches 2 days later. And boy, one game, winner take all
against King Felix. Hello.
Brandon Moss, the batter, and he waves through it. Moss has really been struggling, hitting in the 180s since the All-Star break.
This is Jared Weaver at his best. He elevated the fastball 0-2 to Brandon Moss to get his eyesight looking up there, and then he drops his curveball on Brandon Moss. Just I mean, you see how far out in front Brandon Moss is, but that's all set up by that pitch before, that fastball up in the zone.
Now Josh Reddick, the right fielder tonight, hitting .255. Takes a fastball there for a strike. You saw that 86 miles per hour. Everybody knows Weaver is not overpowering, doesn't throw as hard as he used to, but still can be very, very successful. Fly ball right to Hamilton. What are the keys for Weaver with his stuff to have success?
Hitting the corners. I think the thing with Oakland that he struggled with in his 2 starts this year, ERA over 7, was they're very patient. And we see the fastball right there, 86 miles an hour, 4th lowest in Major League Baseball. But what I've seen of him tonight, and even in his warm-up pitches, wherever the catcher's setting up the glove, he's there. And that's where he has to be. And he's getting close calls, too, so far in the first couple innings of this game. And he has to get those calls on the outer half and inner half. If not, he has to center it, and that's not good. There's a pitch in the upper quadrant inside to Derek Norris, and it's a perfect pitch.
Two down, nobody on. Derek Norris is the batter for the A's. 3-0 Angels. Some catching news for Oakland, and Buster talked about it a little bit. John Jaso's dealing with a concussion right now. Stephen Vogt, who can catch, has a foot injury, so he can't catch right now. The A's picked up Giovanni Soto, and by all accounts, when Soto gets here tomorrow, Jaso will officially go on the 7-day concussion DL. So they've gone from an abundance of catchers to a little bit of a shortage of catchers right now. Vogt, a guy, can play multiple positions. He can play right, and he's playing first tonight. And Soto is expected to join the team in Houston as they begin their next series. And Norris is playing through some back trouble, but they need somebody there behind the plate. So Norris is doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any catcher in baseball right now that's pretty much an everyday catcher that's not beat up at some point. And this is the time of the year where you got to try to just block these things out and go about your business.
Trout trying to get a rally started here in the bottom of the second. And Weaver gets him right on the outside corner at 89 to end the inning. 6 up, 6 down for Jared Weaver so far. When we come back to the right field bleachers with Dallas Braden to get a little taste of being a fan here in Oakland. Welcome back to O.Co Coliseum here in Oakland. The Angels lead the Athletics 3-0 as we go to the top of the third. You're looking from the left field bleachers in toward the field. We're going to take you now out to the right field bleachers, seen as the rowdiest place in the ballpark. And a guy they used to cheer on when he was on the field here as a member of the A's, Dallas Braden, joins us tonight. Dallas?
How we doing, guys? I'm out here with the right field bleacher crew, and it is, as you can tell, it is absolute pandemonium. I'm not even sure if you guys can hear me right now, but if there is a seat to be had in the house, it is right here amongst the best fans in the MLB. The green and gold, as you can see, raucous environment. They keep it rocking all night, all day. Take a listen, guys. Here we 162 games straight. That's what they're working with out here. Back to you guys in the studio.
All right, Dallas, stay with us. Albert Pujols, Josh Hamilton, Howie Kendrick coming up for the Angels here in the third. Pujols grounded out his first time up.
He's a brave man, but grew up in Northern Cal and loves it here and loves these fans. And
Bob Melvin, the manager of the A's, was telling us before the game the folks out in left field are a little bit more artistic. They're the ones with a lot of the signs and the posters, and the right field is just straight out rowdy. So depending on your personality, you decide where you want to buy your tickets.
Someone like you would probably be in center field.
That's better than I thought you were going to say. I thought you'd say I'd be right behind home plate. Here's a base hit for Pujols. Dallas, you were telling us too, like, not only are they rowdy, I mean, they know everything about you and your teammates and the other team and all their guys too, right?
Oh, they know absolutely everything that's going on about these guys. They've got homework done to the nines. They know about your cat. They know about your dog. They know about your sister. They know everything about you. Do not slip up out here. They will take advantage.
And what is it? Is Stephen Vogt a personal favorite out there? Is he the number one guy out there, or do they love everybody?
They love everybody equally, but they believe in Stephen Vogt. Trust me, as you can hear.
Leadoff base hit for Pujols. The batter was Hamilton, who singled and scored, and there's proof. They do believe in Stephen Vogt. An interesting story, by the way. A guy who was a regular in the playoffs last year for the A's, had a terrific spring, and then it got caught in a numbers game, so he got sent down, got hurt, tore it up in May at AAA, got called back up, and is hitting .324 on the season right now. A guy who didn't even start the season in the big leagues.
Yeah, and just very appreciative of what he has. Being in the big leagues.
Oh boy, the folks in right might get a ball that they don't necessarily want. As Josh Hamilton hits it out, a two-run homer just short of the bleachers, but off the wall up above the yellow line there. Two-run shot for Hamilton, his second home run of the series, and the Angels are now up 5-0.
This is in the shadows too, and I think that first at bat, the 3-0 pitch that he lined in the left center is a great start, but that's a fastball. You look at Derek Norris, he wanted that ball away, but he just got Hamilton to chase one. You see how Norris has to reach back for that ball. Josh Hamilton doesn't miss it.
Well, Josh Hamilton and the Angels have taken a little bit of the starch out of the crowd here in Oakland, up 5-0 in the third. The batter is Howie Kendrick, a walk and a run scored. And a changeup bounced back to the mound, and Casmir with all kinds of time to get Kendrick for out number one. Well, I think we've talked about over the last couple of years, if there was ever a time when Trout, Pujols, and Hamilton were all healthy and all hot at the same time, this offense could be scary.
Yeah, it could be really scary. And right now, Trout's not hot, but Josh Hamilton is starting to heat up. A second home run, like you said, in this series. And when he's hitting lefties the other way, what it does is, to a left-handed hitter facing a lefty, you know your shoulder's in, and now you feel like you can be really quick to the inside pitch because you're seeing the ball good. If you're hitting the ball the other way, you're seeing it pretty good.
And they continue to tattoo Scott Casmir. David Freese is on his way to second and in there with a sliding double. That is the 7th hit already off Casmir, the 4th extra base hit.
Yeah, this is, you know, you can see it from the start. He had no location. He couldn't hit the glove. Derek Norris is trying to give him targets, and he's missing it by a lot. And I mean, you saw the home run to Josh Hamilton. The pitch was supposed to be down and away, was down and in.
And there's going to be some bullpen activity here in the early going in Oakland. Eric Ibar, the batter. He was a foot away from a home run his last time up with a 2-run double. Jesse Chavez is up in the pen now for the A's, a guy who started 21 games for the A's this year, but then when they made the trades, was moved to the bullpen.
And a perfect guy to have in this situation if Casmir can't get out of this third inning, or Bob Melvin decides 3 innings is enough for him. Then you have Jesse Chavez comes in, and you don't have to worry about, you know, what's it going to do to your bullpen. You're basically going to burn up one guy, and that would be Chavez, as long as he pitches well.
And a base hit through the right side for Ibar. Freeze will be held at third. Ibar's 2 for 2. Scott Casmir, who comes in here with all-star credentials, 14 wins, is getting knocked around hard right now by the Angels, and he'll get another visit to give Chavez more time to warm up. Casmir in 25 starts this year, Crucky, has given up 0 or 1 earned run in 12 of them. Almost half of his starts have been great, and tonight is at the other end of the spectrum for him. This is just the third time this year he's given up 5 runs in a game, and he's only in the 3rd inning.
And he might not be for long too. He remember threw 4-pitch walk to Chris Iannetta's last at bat, and Gordon Beckham flew out to left field, and it's the last thing he needs now, another walk and a sac fly to make it 6.
The A's are also a man down in their bullpen right now. They placed their closer, Sean Doolittle, on the disabled list before the game with a strained intercostal muscle. If you saw last night, you saw him pitching through it in the closing moments of last night's game. And they've recalled Dan Otero for the minors, but we don't believe he is here yet. This was all done just before the game, so they're down a body in the bullpen.
What's an intercostal?
I don't think either one of us has them, so I don't think we have to worry about it.
That's where my son and I fished this summer.
But what a loss. I mean, what a season this guy's had.
Well, and then a strike throwing machine. And he's been a savior to the end of that bullpen after Jim Johnson struggled.
A pop-up. And Sogard makes the catch, 2 down. Doolittle, you hear about good strikeout to walk ratios, 3-1, 4-1. He's 16-1, 80 strikeouts and 5 walks this season for a guy who was a two-way player in college and really was, I mean, when he started out with Oakland, he was coming up through the minors as a first baseman.
Yeah, but then 96 showed up from the left side, and maybe we can make him a pitcher. But you know, the amazing thing when you watch Sean Doolittle pitch, guys still take strike 1. He ain't gonna walk you.
And it's not like he's trying to trick anybody.
He's not tricking anyone.
Here's Beckham.
It's the ego of hitters. You know, how can he throw me a first pitch strike? Doesn't he know who I am? Well, he doesn't care who you are. And now you're 0-1, and good luck.
So a loss for the A's nearing the final month, and that's one of those tricky injuries where, you know, they hope it's just 15 days. They've got a lot of depth, a lot of good arms in that bullpen, but who's going to take over in the 9th inning? Is it going to be a matchup thing, or is Bob Melvin going to have to pick one guy and make that his closer?
Well, I asked Bob Melvin that before the game, and he said, yeah, he goes, I don't think that worked for us too well.
The matchup
when we tried to do the matchup thing. And hey, who, though? You got to find one.
Eric O'Flaherty, Luke Gregerson. Another pop-up. Norris tosses away the mask and makes the catch to end the inning. But more damage done against Casmir. Josh Hamilton with a rocket to right, his second home run of the series, his 10th home run of the season. And 2.5 innings in, the Angels have a 5-0 lead here in Oakland. Bottom three in Oakland, 5-0 Angels. As Jared Weaver starts his former teammate Alberto Callaspo with a strike. Callaspo starting tonight at third, has also played at second. At first is DH'd. Switch hitter. And in the hole 0-2. And Callaspo's turned back twice to Mike Everett, the home plate umpire, in disagreement with the call.
One on in the top of the quadrant and the other in the bottom part. You got to tip your hat to Jared Weaver. Two pretty good pitches.
Jared Weaver in his career is 126-67. That's a winning percentage of .653. That is the best of any active pitcher in baseball with at least 100 decisions. Down the right field line, well hit. It'll drop, and it's fair. And the first hit of the night for the A's is a double for Alberto Callaspo. But as good as Weaver is, Weaver and everybody else, they miss Garrett Richards. This is this week at Fenway. The left leg crumpling underneath him. A torn patellar tendon, surgery out 6 to 9 months. Hoping that next season isn't delayed too badly. And you could see, if you were watching the game, the instant it happened, you could see it looked very serious. And this is what they're missing. Plain and simple, one of the best starting pitchers in the American League this year. So now they have Jared Weaver. They have C.J. Wilson. They have Matt Shoemaker, who's been a revelation this year, winning 12 games, took a no-hitter into the 7th in Boston earlier this week. And they have Hector Santiago. They called up Wade LeBlanc from the minors. So that's their rotation right now. Buster, is that going to be their rotation heading into September?
Well, they'll keep looking. And right now, Bartolo Colon of the New York Mets is on the waiver wire. And we'll know by midday tomorrow if he was claimed by some team. One thing to keep in mind, the Angels ranked 29th out of 29 teams in terms of where they stack up in the waiver claim process. And one team that could be interested in claiming him is a team that he beat today, the Los Angeles Dodgers, who are also looking for starting pitching this year. Bartolo Colon, 12-10 with a 3.82 ERA, and certainly the Angels are very familiar with him and how he just fills the strike zone with fastballs.
So to shed a little more light on what Buster was talking about, 29th out of 29 in the waiver claim process. When a player is put on waivers, is placed on waivers, there's an order in which teams can claim that player. And the order is worst record to best record in your league. So in Colon's case, it would be in the National League. And then worst record to best record in the other league. And it's a bit of a misconception that a player has to clear waivers in order to be traded. The first team going in the order that claims him, they can make a trade with that team. So a player can actually be claimed, but then he can only be dealt to that team, the first team that makes the claim. So as Buster is saying, if any other team in baseball wanted to claim Colon, either to try and acquire him or just to block other teams from claiming him, he would never get anywhere near the Angels.
So,
you good on all that?
No, and I never will be, because that's something I've never understood. But Sogard's just struck out. So a question for you, and I hope you can answer it, because I can't.
That was everything I knew about it. So
well,
yeah,
then we're not in good shape here. Let's say the Angels hold on and win this game. The waiver wire tomorrow. So now, since Oakland now has dropped a game behind the Angels, can Oakland block Colon from going to the Angels?
Yes.
So when are the standings updated? It's like to the current Monday afternoon or Monday morning or whenever? I'm confused.
Buster is telling us it's the standings on Saturday. Buster, is that because that's the day he was placed on waivers?
Correct.
Okay, so the Angels were still ahead.
Right.
So Oakland would get the pick before the Angels if they wanted. Whew.
Runner at second, one out. Number 9 hitter Andy Perino, the shortstop tonight for the A's, is up. Switch hitter batting 164 for 25. Jed Lowry's on the DL right now for Oakland.
Started beating up thinking about all that stuff.
So let's say they don't get anybody.
Yeah.
Let's say they make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Let's say they go in with a rotation of Weaver, Wilson, Shoemaker, Santiago. Is that enough to compete against whether it's Oakland or whether it's Detroit or whether it's Seattle?
Well, I think it's enough to compete against Oakland's offense the way it is right now. I think you've seen in this series, it's not like the Angels' offense is struggling against the great pitching of the Oakland A's, but that got Iannetta pretty good. But I think they compete against Oakland's offense. I don't know. I don't know if they can compete against the Baltimore lineup right now. I mean, I think that's just how good Garrett Richards was, and they don't have that power arm to match up with anyone right now. And if it's Detroit, if it's Kansas City with a bunch of power arms, or of course Oakland with John Lester, or Felix Hernandez if they get in as a wild card, Seattle. But
and there's a school of thought that power arms really play in October, that if you don't have power arms, you're going to struggle.
Yeah, you got to strike people out. The more you pitch to contact in a postseason, the more you're going to give teams that are pretty good offensively a chance.
Two and two the count on Perino.
But it wouldn't surprise me if they could set their rotation. It wouldn't be Weaver, Shoemaker, 1-2. Even though C.J. Wilson's more of a veteran, a lot more of a veteran guy than Matt Shoemaker, I just think Shoemaker's a guy that, as of this point, is pitching better.
He's 12-4 with a 3.56 ERA on the season, and he strikes out a batter an inning.
That'll work.
C.J. Wilson has had some injuries this year. 10-8, 4.45. Weaver 13-7, a 3.70. And Santiago 3-7, but a respectable 3.38 ERA, both as a starter and out of the bullpen. Remember Tyler Skaggs? They lost him to Tommy John surgery. A very promising young pitcher.
Power arm.
At the beginning of the season, the big problem for the Angels was the bullpen. It didn't go well at all, but there's almost a brand new bullpen for them now, and that's going great. But now in the wake of the Richards injury, most of the discussion is about the rotation.
Yeah, they shored up the bullpen, and then they started losing pieces out of the rotation. It just hasn't been a perfect storm for Mike Scioscia. You get something good, and you lose something. You fix one spot, and then another spot has a leak.
Beckham battles the sun, makes the catch, 2 down. Well, that's what you never know. Cincinnati losing Votto and Phillips in a very short period of time. Phillips now back, but lost both for an extended period of time, and that kind of torpedoed their season, it looks like, and just the one thing you can't predict.
Yep, if you could predict your whole season you're not going to go injury-free, then you got a great chance.
Here's Coco Crisp, popped up his first time.
I honestly think guys exercise too much. That's just my personal opinion.
And that's why they get hurt?
I think so.
You never got hurt?
I didn't exercise.
I'm not implying anything. If you find that intercostal muscle.
Yeah, still searching.
It's somewhere underneath the short ribs you put away in the second inning.
Well, that's where you, as my partner, have to help me out.
By eating them?
Well, eat 2. They brought 4. You got to eat 2. That's half, isn't it?
I'm pacing myself because apparently there's more coming.
I heard. I'll be prepared for those.
Crisp, a switch hitter batting from the left side against the right-hander Weaver, has not had a lot of success in his career against Weaver. Out at second base, Callaspo, 2 down in the inning, and the Angels with a commanding 5-0 lead, trying to salvage the final game of this 3-game series and get the lead back atop the American League West. You got the flag waving in the Rowdies in right. You got the drums out in left, it sounds like. I sat here as a fan for a game last month on the third base side. There was a whole lot of cowbell up the third baseline. And as you know, you can never have enough cowbell.
Well, no, I mean, you would think they go hand in hand with baseball. Well, that's not real. I thought that was real until I saw it bend. And it's early. This team does have a flair for the dramatic.
They've won 11 games when trailing after the 7th inning. There's a long way to go between now and then. Crisp is always tucking that chin hard into his right shoulder or his front shoulder, depending on which side of the plate he's batting from, as he awaits the pitch. A lot of different ways to get set up, huh?
Yeah, it's whatever you're comfortable with, and sometimes it's the simplest thing. You remember Joe Morgan, of course, with the flapping of the arm, and Coco tucking that shoulder, chin on his right shoulder, like you said.
Curveball at 69, in for a strike, and the count now full on Crisp.
I mean, that's a leadoff hitter. 3-1 count. You're winning 5-0, and he rolls this one out, and you wonder why Coco Crisp is only hitting just above 100 against Jared Weaver in his career. Some things just aren't fair.
And another breaking ball, bouncer out to second. Inning over. End of 3. Angels 5, A's nothing. Mike Trout coming up here in the Bay Area. Welcome back to ESPN Sunday Night Baseball, presented by Taco Bell. Dan Schulman, John Kruk, Buster Olney, Dallas Braden, and our outstanding Sunday night crew here at O.co Coliseum, with the Angels leading the A's 5-0. Top of the order for the Angels: Calhoun, Trout, and Pujols. And Calhoun has already singled and doubled tonight.
Thinking
Breaking
cycle?
ball for a strike.
You're thinking cycle?
Halfway there.
It's only the 4th inning, and he's got 2 at-bats already, so pretty good run there the last 15, huh?
He can put up some numbers. They missed him while he was out. He can.
12 RBIs from the leadoff spot, special.
He is second in the American League in runs scored among leadoff hitters. Only Jose Reyes of the Blue Jays has more. And I know we were a little bit. He scored 61 runs. You'd think more leadoff hitters, but I guess there have been some injuries amongst leadoff hitters, and offense is down. And Calhoun's numbers are some of the best of any leadoff hitter in the American League. And this ball is going to get down into right center field. A single for Calhoun, who is 3 for 3.
2 of his 3 pitches have been on 0-2 pitches, which tells you that Scott Casmir's missing his spots. There's a 3-0 pitch to Josh Hamilton. Wanted it away, got it center. Another pitch, wanted it away, got it center. Josh Hamilton once again, wanted away, middle in, home run. David Freese wanted in, away, Ibar in, away. Base hits all over the field, and now Cole Calhoun again. A breaking ball, 0-2. Derek Norris wants him to bury it down and away. It hung in the strike zone. Cole Calhoun now with his 3rd hit, 2 of them on 0-2 pitches.
So here's Trout. Trout has grounded into a double play and struck out tonight. They play him to pull slightly, and with a vote holding on to Calhoun at first, a big hole on the right side for Trout as the bullpen is up again for Oakland. Chavez again.
There's Jesse Chavez warming up, and when you get a guy up for the 2nd time, he's coming in. And I think if it's not going to be long, because he's pushing it like he's ready to come in now. And you wouldn't be surprised to see Casmir throw over maybe once or twice to give more time for Chavez to get loose.
And he falls behind 3-0.
They turned Josh Hamilton loose 3-0. See it there. 2nd most hits allowed this season, only 3 innings. 9 hits, all earned. Only 1 strikeout for a guy with the stuff to strike guys out.
And a strike over the inside corner. Looked like a cut fastball there on 3-0 from Casmir, or a very hard slider.
Yeah, whatever it was darting in on the hands of Mike Trout. There's that pitch off the plate. And that could have fooled the umpire. By the way, Derek Norris caught it. He kind of caught it backhand.
A hard hit ball that ricochets into right center. And Calhoun is on his way to 3rd on the base hit by Trout. And Bob Melvin has made the call. That's going to be all for Casmir. A very disappointing outing for him. 3+ innings, 10 hits, 5 runs, 2 more runners his responsibility. And the All-Star will make his 2nd earliest exit in any game this season. So the Angels up pretty big and trying to pile on here in the fourth. They have driven Scott Casmir out of the game, up 5-0. First and third, nobody out after hits from Calhoun and Trout to open this inning.
Well, Dan, we talked about Mike Trout, and it's well documented how he likes to pitch down. And Scott Casmir gets behind in the count 3-1. He has to throw a strike. Unfortunately, it was a strike down in the strike, a pitch down in the strike zone that Mike Trout just lives on. It's even down out of the strike zone, where he still hits over 350 in his hot zone down there. And now a potential another big inning for the Angels.
A dejected Casmir looking on from the A's dugout. Jesse Chavez is on in relief to face Albert Pujols. Chavez making his 7th relief appearance. He's also made 21 starts. And Chavez about 6'2", only about 160 pounds, and a guy who has bounced around from organization to organization. And a lot of guys in the Oakland roster have interesting backgrounds. They've been through a lot of places. Chavez has been in the Pirates, Royals, Braves, and Blue Jays organizations before landing in Oakland and having the best success of his career.
And what a luxury to have. You have a guy with an ERA of 3.3 in 20-something starts, and you get John Lester and you say, okay, you have to go to the bullpen. You're the odd man out at 3.3. Oh, come on.
Well, they sent down a few days ago reliever Dan Otero, who, as Buster tells us, is back now with Doolittle being DL'd, and Otero is physically here now, we're told. They sent Otero down when they wanted to activate Craig Gentry. Otero is 7-1 with a 2.28 ERA out of the bullpen, and they sent him to the minors.
Tough league.
They have, as we say in the business, they have deep depth.
They have very deep depth.
Although tonight it's the Angels who have been having their way.
I'm not sure that's a 3-0 pitch Albert Pujols wanted to swing at right there.
Maybe that's
green light, but yeah, 6 for 10. But that pitch is down and away. Might not. Might have been a strike. Might not have been. But I'm sure Albert's not looking for something down there off the plate to swing at 3-0. That's an 0-2 battle swing right there.
With a runner going from first, the 3-1 is laced into center, a base hit. Calhoun will score. Trout around to third. 6-0 Angels.
Well, the party around the bases continue to go for the Angels, and Josh Hamilton. The big thing with Josh Hamilton is if can he stay balanced, can he have timing? Well, he went back to the toe tap that he had when they were watching a home run derby in New York. They had that big home run derby, and all it does is it gets that foot back. He gets a nice easy little stride, a short stride, but he's staying on the ball. He timed both at bats. He had perfect timing on the base hit to left center, and of course the home run to right field. And if he's seeing the ball, laying off bad pitches, Dan, he's got a chance. When he starts hacking at everything that comes up there, it gets pretty ugly for Josh. But I'm sure Mike Scioscia right now is not that he can do a cartwheel, but I bet he would do one if this continues. You don't think he can do a cartwheel?
I don't think he can do a cartwheel.
It'd be a good look, though. Yeah. I'd like to have that on tape.
1-1 the count on Hamilton. 2 for 2 tonight, a single and a homer. But he could block the plate.
Whoa. Yeah, that'll score him.
Trout getting ready to tag at third. Moss setting up, makes the catch. Here he comes. Here's the throw, not in time. The run scores to make it 7-0, and Pujols into second on the play.
Well, it's the little things that you can do as a base runner, even though you're not quick. And Albert Pujols isn't the fastest guy in the league anymore with all the foot injuries that he had. You see Mike Trout tagging. You know it's a shallow fly ball. You know Moss is going to try to throw home. What's Albert Pujols do? He tags up also with Trout. Once he sees the ball leave Moss's hand, he goes into second. Now he puts himself in scoring position to score, maybe on this single.
Into center by Kendrick. Here comes Pujols. Throw comes into second. And the rout is on here in Oakland. 8-0 Angels.
Like I said, you don't have to be fast to be good. A good base runner. And Albert Pujols certainly is a good base runner. Getting to second right there. Kendrick, first pitch. Grounder up the middle, scores another run. And got a feeling that he might be able to do a cartwheel. This continues.
8 runs on 12 hits for the Angels already in this game. Here's David Freese. And what an important game for the Angels after the A's take the first 2, move into a tie. And there's a long way to go here tonight. But for them to bounce back against an all-star pitcher tonight, swing the bats the way they have. They meet for 4 more games beginning Thursday night in Anaheim. And then they play 3 games against one another here the last week of the season. This is going to be one of the most interesting races to follow down the stretch in baseball.
Yeah, it is. And it's going to be exciting, too. And, you know, that's where you wish that, you know, of course, you can't go back. But Garrett Richards, how much more exciting. It's still going to be exciting, but how much more exciting it would be.
Fair ball, tricky hop, taken nicely by Casmir. He'll throw out Freese as Kendrick moves into second. And they've also both got home-and-home series against the Seattle Mariners, who won again today and are one of the hottest teams in baseball right now.
Everybody in the lineup doing something. Gordon Beckham, the only man out. Iannetta did walk.
Angels are 5 out of 10 with the runners in scoring position tonight. Josh Hamilton's driven in 3.
And I think it all starts at the top. Cole Calhoun getting on base 3 times, even though he's only scored 1 run. You know, when you're on base for Trout, Pujols, and Hamilton, there's a good chance that eventually you're going to get brought in and they're going to bring themselves in.
And a liner to third will end the inning. Not before they get 3 more, knock Casmir out of the game, and up the lead to 8-0. Welcome back to Oakland. 8-0. The Angels over the A's. Between innings, Buster Olney with Mike Scioscia.
Mike, Josh Hamilton with a homer and 3 RBI in this 8-run outburst. You spoke confidently about him before the game. How come?
Well, I think his last 10 at-bats, Buster, have been really a little more comfortable. I had a rough night last night, but I think overall Josh is much more comfortable in the box. We need him. He's having a big day today.
What are you seeing in Jared Weaver early tonight?
Well, right now it looks like he's getting his fastball on both sides of the plate. He's missing up a little bit with it, but he can really bring his off-speed pitch into games and set hitters up. So as long as he's getting ahead of counts, he'll be fine.
Mike, thanks.
So Mike Scioscia very happy with how things are going so far. 8-0 for the Angels going to the bottom of the 4th. Jared Weaver's given up just 1 hit through 3, has not walked a batter. He struck out 3. And he's thrown a first pitch strike to 8 out of 11 hitters. And he's out in front 0-2 now on Sam Fuld.
Wish Buster would ask him if he could do a cartwheel.
I think we know the answer.
I still think that must see TV though.
I'd rather see Buster try to do a cartwheel, or you try to do a cartwheel.
I think next Angels game we should come out early and see if me and
you and Soch can have a cartwheel contest.
Cartwheel contest.
Doesn't end well.
Neither of us.
It doesn't end well. It's funny, but it doesn't end well.
You never know.
Strike 3 called. 4th strikeout of the night for Weaver.
You've been calling games a lot longer now. Is it time for me to hang up the old scorecard? Because Jarrett Weaver's pretty good.
He's having a night so far.
There's the slider right there to Sam Fuld. Look at that pitch, just bite down in the strike zone. It's one of those, you see the spin, you're waiting for more break to it, and it didn't have that much break. Kind of stayed flattened out into the strike zone, but strikeout nonetheless.
They believe in Stephen Vogt. Well hit. And it is off the wall. And Vogt brings his fans to their feet with a double. Well, we mentioned the Seattle Mariners a little bit earlier. And this is not a 2-team race. Now, Seattle's 6 back, actually 5.5 now after winning again today. They beat the Red Sox 8-6 today. Fernando Rodney picked up his 38th save. Dustin Ackley is on a tear right now. Kyle Seager drove in a couple of runs. Iwakuma got knocked out in the 3rd, and the bullpen was sensational the rest of the way. This is a dangerous team. This team might have the best pitching in all of baseball.
It's really dangerous. They have power, too. Their bullpen is about as good as it gets with the power arms that come out of there. And can you imagine if them and the Royals in a playoff series, a best of 5, and I mean, you're going to see 95 to 100 on pretty much every pitcher that both teams throw out there. Not a lot of finesse.
No. And all these teams, Angels, A's, Mariners, they all play each other a lot between now and the end of the season. Seattle in possession of the 2nd wild card spot right now, just up on Detroit. The Yankees won today. The Indians won today. The Yankees swept the White Sox. So they're hanging around. And again, you can see the Yankees in Kansas City tomorrow night here on ESPN, and then the Yankees in Detroit on Wednesday night. All of these games critically important in the American League playoff races.
And maybe somewhere in September we can end up in Seattle to do a game. They continue to.
I would love to go to Seattle. Love going to Seattle.
It's a beautiful city.
The batter is Brandon Moss. Chris Young, tall pitcher Chris Young. Yeah. Not outfielder Chris Young. Until his last start, he got knocked around a little bit his last start. But he's been going out there and getting it done start after start for the Mariners. Iwakuma is an underrated guy, not as well known nationally as he should be, and as good as just about anybody's number 2. And I think Greinke's kind of the gold standard for number 2 guys, but Iwakuma's right. I mean, he's got to be in the conversation. He's terrific. And some very good young arms too. Paxton is back. Deep bullpen. And some acquisitions like Morales and Denorfia and Austin Jackson. They've improved over the course of the season. In the air to left. And Moss is retired 2 down.
You know, there had to be a big boost to that organization when Robinson Cano decided to sign there in Seattle. Now you got this offensive powerhouse or offensive power in your lineup, and just makes everyone else better. But I think going out and get Kendry Morales told the rest of the teams that, we're not satisfied with where we're at.
Here's Josh Reddick. 2 down, runner at second. 8-0 Angels, bottom of the 4th. And you know that both of these teams have a lot of respect for the Mariners in the way that they're playing right now. And a weakly hit ground ball to second will end the inning. So Weaver gives up the 1-out double, nothing more, and still leads 8-0 now at the end of 4. Welcome back to Oakland Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN. The Angels all over the A's, 8-0 going to the 5th. Between innings, our buster only with Oakland manager Bob Melvin.
Bob, what's your assessment of what went wrong with Scott Casmir today?
Well, you know what? He hasn't pitched like that for us all this year. I mean, he's been as good as you can be. Some balls up, missed some spots, and they hit some good pitches as well.
Now, before the game, Josh Donaldson was not put in the lineup because of a knee issue. He went and got checked out. What can you tell us?
Yeah, structurally nothing there. Just a little instability right now. Knowing him, will be in the lineup tomorrow.
Bob, thanks.
All right, Buster, thank you to the 5th inning. And the first pitch is fouled off by Chris Iannetta. So good news for the A's, and on a night where they're looking for some, if it's nothing major for Josh Donaldson, and he'll be potentially back in the lineup tomorrow when the A's begin a road trip in Houston. They've got 3 in Houston and then 4 in Anaheim beginning Thursday. And the breaking ball hits Iannetta. The bad news for Oakland is the performance of Scott Casmir tonight. We've got our own lefty on the crew, Dallas Braden, to help break it down for us.
Yeah, tonight what we saw out of Kaz was just location, 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 or a lack thereof. Anytime you've got a catcher setting up out and you're missing in, as you see here, Hamilton's able to put a good swing on the ball and just Freeze being able to get to pitches. This isn't something we've seen out of Casmir. You'd like to see him work down in the zone moving forward.
And it just was a night, you said it early, Crucky, even before the damage began to pile up, that he just didn't have his sharp location, his good command, and you used the term non-competitive pitches. He was missing badly.
Yeah, there was a lot of pitches where even when he did get ahead of the count, that guys didn't have to worry about swinging. As soon as it left his hand, it was a ball. It wasn't in the zone, breaking out of the zone.
How's your dinner? And we should say, we didn't ask the folks here in Oakland, we didn't ask for this. Jay Sattenspiel, who's with here at the O.Co Coliseum, every time they just keep bringing up food. There's a ground ball to short, and the second one, and that's his routine, a 6-4-3 double play, as you'll find. What are you having now? What do we got here?
It's the menu. They brought us a menu. Started.
Look at this.
Well,
I guess because we haven't been here in a while, we have
and we love them.
surf and turf New York strip steak with Maine lobster claws, roasted corn, and heirloom tomato succotash.
Yeah.
Crispy onion straws and Cabernet shallot herb butter.
But that's the appetizer was the cherry bourbon barbecue braised short ribs.
Yeah. And
Buster?
There's dessert coming, Buster. What do you got down there?
Nothing. Thank you.
A whole lot of nothing, huh?
I'd like to say we'd save you some, but nope.
No, it doesn't look so good.
No. How about the end of the 6th inning? A caramelized banana split with an ice cream trio. Vanilla, salted caramel, mint chocolate chip, chocolate brownie.
I don't know what. Dallas has seeds. What's he complaining about? What do you got? Peanuts? You got peanuts.
Peanuts.
Salted and everything.
Didn't that man pitch a perfect game here?
He did.
They should bring him whatever he wants. Maybe he wanted peanuts. We'll take the steak and lobster. That's good to be with Dan Shulman, I tell you that. I know why Vitel's happy all the time.
It's good to be Cole Calhoun so far tonight. Although he pops one up into left field and is going to be retired for the first time tonight. He's 3 for 4. Going bottom 5. Crucky digging in here in Oakland. Welcome back to Oakland, where the Angels are all over the A's to the tune of 8-0 going to the bottom of the 5th. These two teams tied for top spot in the American League West. The best records in all of baseball, 76 wins and 52 losses. Oakland leading the season series 8-3 thus far. 6, 7, and 8. Derek Norris, Alberto Callaspo, and Eric Sogard coming up for the Athletics. Such great tradition here, of course. You've got the teams back in the 70s who won the 3 consecutive world championships. You've got the teams in the late 80s, and then you've had this run, which I don't know if you can say it's all one run, but kind of began in the late 90s, 2000, really. The world championship teams, 72, 73, 74, 89. You had the Hudson and Mulder-Zito teams in the early part of the 2000s. A ton of regular season success. One thing Oakland has not had a lot of, delve into this a little bit later on, is a lot of postseason success since 2000. A lot of heartbreaking, deciding games defeats, 5th and deciding games in division series. 1-2 the count on Norris.
But, you know, you talk about these Oakland A's over the last few years, and, you know, the hair, the beards, the whole deal. But, I mean, that was the 72, 73, 74 Oakland A's under Charlie Finley. That didn't he pay those guys to grow mustaches? And
Norris strikes out, number 5 for Weaver. That was an interesting and immensely talented group they had back in the 70s. They defeated the Tigers in the 72 World Series. Gene Tennis, who hit a home run in each of his first 2 at-bats in that World Series, won the MVP. Reggie Jackson winning the MVP in 1973 as they beat the Orioles. And then in 1974, Raleigh Fingers, the MVP. They won it again in '89. That was the Bash brothers, McGuire, Canseco, and so on. He's got a good curveball tonight. 0-2, the count on a Casmir.
Got a good one, and he's locating, and that's. Some days you just realize that the pitcher's stuff is better than what you're bringing to the table offensively. I think it's what made Greg Maddux so tough. Greg Maddux hit his spots with pretty much every pitch he threw, and that's what makes it so difficult. He knew where he wanted to get you out, and that's where he threw it. And he seemingly did it every start. You know, not many guys have that ability, and of course that's why he got elected into the Hall of Fame.
And he strikes him out on another breaking ball. That one more like a slider at 80. Back-to-back strikeouts, 6 on the night for Weaver.
That was more of a hanger, but you know, when you're down in the strike zone, and all of a sudden, even though it's a breaking ball and it's high, I mean, there you see the spin on it. It's not a big break to it at all. But you know, it's the deception. You watch Jared Weaver, how the ball's hidden behind him, how he crossfires, the glove hand comes up before he tucks it into his side. And there's a lot of things coming at you, and then he throws that rolling breaking ball, and you saw Casmir right there was late on it.
Sogard lines one into left field, a base hit. 3rd hit of the night for the A's. Let's go to Dallas Braden for more on Jared Weaver.
And guys, what Weaver's been able to do tonight is not only throw this breaking ball for strikes, but command it in the zone. And as you see here against Sogard, out of the zone. When you're able to throw that breaking ball for strikes and expand the strike zone, you create an unpredictable element about yourself and a very uncomfortable at bat for the competition. And that's what he's doing tonight.
And as a true crookie, as a hitter, when you see so many good curveballs at 70, something like that, that all of a sudden 88 looks like 93.
It gets a little quicker. Yeah, it gets on you quicker.
Ooh, and he gets maybe a bit of a break on that high strike call.
But he's been living in the strike zone, so you're going to get some close calls. And, you know, we said it earlier that if he's getting calls on the corners or just off the plate or up or down, you know, he'll live there. And he's not going to, you know, as long as the umpire's calling it, he's going to keep throwing it there.
We talked a lot about Garrett Richards in the early going and his season-ending injury. And, you know, barring anything unforeseen, Jared Weaver obviously would now be the game one guy for the Angels. He's got the experience. He's pitched a lot in the playoffs. He's had great success. He's not a power pitcher, but he certainly has the credentials and the toughness and the experience to succeed.
Without question, and I don't think there's any doubt that if the Angels get into the postseason and Mike Scioscia can set up his rotation, he's not going to, without question, he's going to go with Jared Weaver as his number one guy. Like you said, the experience, he's been there, he's done it. You know, he's the guy you want to hand the ball to, and you see what he's doing. I mean, his 2 starts this year against Oakland, against this team, ERA over 7, and not a must win, but a very important win. to avoid being swept here in Oakland, and Jared Weaver's throwing up a gem.
C.J. Wilson. The Angels lost the game, but he pitched well last night. Right in on his hands, and that's pulled foul. And again, maybe the wild card is a guy like Shoemaker, who is is new, but is pitching tremendously well right now for the Angels. 12 wins already.
That pitch here, he is right there with the beard.
Yeah.
But yeah, not only pitching good, but pitch is quick. Gotta love that.
So you're a fan.
I watched him his last start against Boston, and it was get it and throw, get it and throw, get it and throw. And you know how Boston likes to prolong at bats. He didn't give him a chance.
Liner into center, a base hit for Perino. Up to second goes Sogard. And the 8-9 hitters come through with the back-to-back base hits. And back to the top of the order for Coco Crisp, 0 for 2. The A's are 0 for 5 tonight with runners in scoring position. They have dug themselves a hole, 8-0. Trying to break through against Weaver here in the 5th.
Three of those at bats with runners scoring position was after Callaspo led off the 3rd inning with a double and struck out Sogard, got a grounder or pop up to Beckham by Perino, and Coco Crisp grounded out to Beckham.
Center field, deep but playable for Trout to end the inning. And a couple of men left on here in the bottom of the 5th. And it's the big fellas, 2, 3, 4 coming up for the Angels when we come back.
You know, it's what's not from us. It's a good group of ball players that work so hard every night.
Mike Trout.
Small market team, and I think
Mike Trout's going to lead it off for the Angels here in the 6th. They're up 8-0. Trout's had a hand in that. Singleton scored his last time up. Takes a strike from Jesse Chavez, who came on 2 batters into the 4th inning for an ineffective Scott Casmir tonight. After Trout, Pujols, and Hamilton. As a group, the trio tonight, Crucky, 5 for 8 with a home run and 4 RBIs.
Yeah, Mike Trout's hit a couple balls hard. The single that hit the mound and went into right center field, and then the double play ball, he hit that ball well. Casmir knocked it down, but you see 0-2 Jesse Chavez trying to go up in the strike zone against him. Pretty good, huh? You know, getting older. 23 now. What? 20? Is he 23 yet? 20?
He just turned 23.
Just turned, yeah.
Front runner for MVP.
Man, hasn't reached his prime yet. Yeah, without question.
On SportsCenter after the game tonight, the Sunday Conversation, Buster Olney with Mike Trout.
Yeah, they boo him, but yet they take his picture when he comes up to hit. Didn't the very famous Reggie Jackson say they don't boo nobodies?
They don't boo nobodies. And this guy, excuse the double negative, is definitely not a nobody. Like when you hear people talk about, you know, the best player in baseball, nobody even argues the point.
No, not anymore.
So it's the power, the speed, the defense. Keeping some pretty good company too when you look at this kind of stuff.
Yeah, he's you know, you're not going to see him on a list with guys like myself.
Buster, what was the conversation like with Trout?
Well, it's interesting, guys. He told me about how when he was a kid, of course, Derek Jeter was his favorite player, and how nervous he was when he got to second base, and Jeter was standing there and came over and tapped him on the leg for the first time. Because in talking with him, and I covered Derek Jeter for 4 years.
High and deep and gone. Wow. Way gone to straightaway center. Number 29 on the season for Mike Trout.
As I was saying, he reminds me so much of Derek Jeter in how he answers questions, and I asked him who gave him the best advice about dealing with all the attention he's getting about maybe being the best face in baseball going forward, and he said, you know what, just keep it simple. And he's not worried about things like that. He just likes to play.
And you can see how much he likes to play when you watch him.
It's easy to like something when you're that great at it.
29 home runs, 91 RBIs now for Trout as Pujols grounds out. Break it down for us, Crucky.
Well, we know that Mike Trout's a great low ball hitter. You see Norris wants it up, and he did get it up. And let me tell you something, people in baseball, pitchers in the American League, if he's going to start hitting that pitch where he just hit that one, you all are in deep trouble because there's no way to get him out now. I mean, you know, Mike Trout low in the zone. That pitch was up in the zone where John Lester threw it by him pretty much all day yesterday. He starts hitting that one. Uh-oh. They might have put him in a different league.
Don Baylor, hitting coach for the Angels. A feared hitter in his day. A feared player in his day.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, he the only thing different between him and Mike Trout is I don't think I ever saw Don Baylor smile on the field. Mm-hmm. Mike Trout will have a good time out there because, well, he should.
The American League MVP back in 1979, and one of those guys when you talk about base runners you didn't want to get in the way of if you were at home plate or second base or something like that. Don Baylor was right at the top of that list. And Hamilton chases away. One of those balls you wonder if he hit it too high to hit it out, and the answer was no.
Well, just to sound it.
By the way, Mike, that's some expensive equipment out there you're messing with.
He can afford it. Not sure what 144 mil gets you, but I'm sure a camera
couple
could
of those
fit into the old budget.
Yep. One and one the count on Howie Kendrick. A walk, a ground out, and an RBI single. Good movement on that pitch, and it's 1-2.
See, now that's a pitch right there. If you're going to throw a pitch down to a guy like Mike Trout, that's the one that's sinking out of the strike zone. But man, I mean, that's all we heard. He can't hit the pitch up. He struggles. That was a fastball up, and didn't seem to miss that one, did he? I mean, you watch enough. How would you pitch him? No one else has figured it out.
I don't know. Can you jam him? Can you get right in his kitchen?
You just, some guys when they're swinging it good, obviously he sees the ball well in this ballpark.
Well, it's not down. I mean, he'll take pitches off his shoe tops and hit them out. Chavez elevates the fastball to get Kendrick in the inning. But Mike Trout with an impressive home run to straightaway center field, his 29th of the season. And the Angels are in control here in Oakland. And back in Oakland for the bottom of the sixth inning. All Angels so far tonight. A 9-0 lead. Home runs by Josh Hamilton and Mike Trout. Scott Casmir driven out of the game before he got an out in the fourth inning. And Jared Weaver dropping curveball after curveball in for a strike.
And you love it. He's got a big lead. A lot of guys with big leads, they don't know how to pitch with a big lead. And they'll just try to, all I have to do now is throw fastballs, fastball. Jared Weaver's still pitching.
Another curveball, fly ball, shallow center, and on comes Trout to make the catch, one down. The best tennis players in the world gather in the Big Apple for the U.S. Open. First round of coverage begins tomorrow at 1 Eastern on ESPN. It continues on ESPN2 at 7 with prime time at the U.S. Open presented by IBM. Coverage is also available live on Watch ESPN.
I got a great U.S. Open story. Playing the Mets, San Diego, when I was in San Diego. Make out the lineup, can't find Steve Garvey anywhere. Now, you know, traffic is bad there in Flushing, even though it was a Sunday afternoon game, I believe. And so lineup's made. Steve Garvey's in the lineup. nowhere to be found. Can't find him anywhere. Well, we just happened to be, someone happened to turn on the U.S. Open tennis thing, whatever it is, tournament, whatever it is, and there was Mr. Garvey sitting there at the tennis match, watching in the crowd.
Now, did they purposely take a shot of him because, hey, there's Steve Garvey? Or was it an accidental sighting?
No. They showed different celebrities that were there. And of course, back then he was and still is a celebrity, and they showed it. And that's when I figured I was playing first base that day.
Who was your manager at the time?
I think Steve Boris, I believe, is a manager.
Was there a fine, or when did Garvey get to the ballpark?
It was July. It's August, so we were out of it.
So you're out of it.
Yeah, we were out of it.
Nobody even cared.
No, he showed up.
Yeah.
He
thought it was a night game.
Well, he misplaced the time of game. But so that's when I hear these guys. How can you not know what time the game is? It happens. Different start times, different all that stuff.
Did you ever miss a game?
No, not that I know of. I mean, I'm sure mentally I checked out of a bunch, but.
Lots of retro jerseys here in Oakland. Got a Ricky Henderson, got a Reggie Jackson t-shirt, 2 to the left.
Eck, Raleigh, and Ricky. And Weaver.
Hall of Famer, Hall of Famer, Hall of Famer as Weaver strikes out Vogt. Two down in the inning, and the batter will be Brandon Moss.
Steve Garvey tried to culture me my rookie year with going to different cities, going to see architecture and museums, and that.
Steve, it didn't take.
It
didn't stick.
I didn't go to one.
7 strikeouts for Weaver. Season high is 9.
He would always tell me, "You're going to regret it when you're retired. You're going to regret not going and seeing the beautiful architecture in different cities and museums and the history of the cities." I'm like, I don't think so. But.
And a pop-up will end the inning. 3 up, 3 down. Weaver cruising here in Oakland. Back here in Oakland, a full house has seen a disappointing result so far with their beloved Athletics trailing the Angels 9-0. But great to see so many people here On a day that it began in scary fashion here in Northern California, an earthquake that measured 6.0 on the Richter scale struck near Napa, California, about 40 miles north of Oakland. Over 120 injuries sustained as a result of the earthquake, 6 of them critical. The majority of the injuries, we're told, sustained by people, actually a lot of them, Crucky, after the earthquake, people trying to clean up, and then cuts, bruises, scrapes, that kind of thing. But there were a number of people who suffered fractures and serious injuries. One child had to be airlifted to hospital because the Napa facility was not capable of dealing with those injuries. A lot of damage in that area, and hopefully the worst is over. And again, our thoughts and prayers go to everybody who was affected by the earthquake. The strongest earthquake in Northern California since the one that struck during the World Series between the Giants and A's back in 1989. Freeze grounds out one down. Jason Hamill, the new pitcher, Dan Otero, excuse me, is the new pitcher for the Oakland A's, just back from the minors.
Yeah, welcome back. Keep it to a 9-run game. Tell you, you got to have a special group of players on a team to, when a guy can have the numbers that Otero had and be sent down, and you don't hear ripples, you don't hear waves.
And Otero was the only reliever with a minor league option remaining, so anybody else they sent down, they would have had to have passed through waivers. Craig Gentry was ready to come off the DL. They knew they would face some lefties in this series. Gentry, right-handed batter, hits well against lefties, so they decided to send down Otero to get the extra bat in there. But then with Sean Doolittle, if you weren't with us earlier, going on the DL with an intercostal muscle strain, they called Otero right back. And as you saw from the numbers, it's not like he deserved to be sent to the minors. He was just caught in a numbers game. And he's kind of the, you're down a few runs, give him the ball. You're got men on base or other guys are tired, give him the ball. He's the guy who soaks up innings and has put up great numbers. And obviously at 7-1, he's vultured a few this year too.
Yeah, he has, but you look at his repertoire. He's kind of a crossfire. He's got a great sinker, and that sinker coming out of the bullpen is a great weapon for a lot of managers.
Lifts a fly ball down the right field line. A long run for Reddick, and he'll make the running basket catch in foul territory. The MLB Fan Cave is back. Some of baseball's biggest stars are scheduled to visit and appear in Fan Cave videos. Check out all the latest cave happenings at MLBFanCave.com. Follow at MLB Fan Cave on Twitter and like the MLB Fan Cave on Facebook. Catch all the action as the pennant races heat up on MLB.TV Premium, the #1 live streaming sports service. Watch every out-of-market game live in true HD on over 400 devices. Visit MLB.TV for details. Two down here in the top of the 7th, and the batter is Chris Iannetta. A walk, a pop-up, and he's been hit by a pitch. Mentioned the A's are off to Houston to begin a road trip tomorrow. The Angels are at the end of a road trip. They had 3 in Texas, 4 in Boston, and now 3 here. If they win this one, it'll be a 6-4 trip. Excuse me, a 7-3 trip. And they're going to go home for 3 with the Marlins before the A's come in for 4 beginning on Thursday. The last week of the regular season for the Angels is 3 here and then 3 in Seattle.
So they went from Texas
to Boston
to Oakland. Interesting. Wasn't routed well.
Just outside, 2-2. They swept 4 at Fenway. Red Sox lost again. We mentioned the Seattle game. It was the Red Sox who Seattle beat. So Boston has now lost 8 in a row.
It's not their longest streak. Didn't they lose 9 at some point
earlier this year?
Yeah, I think they lost 9.
A lost season for the Red Sox after a dream season a year ago. Boston is now 56-74. 18 back of the Orioles. Pitch will run inside, and Iannetta is going to reach base for the 3rd time tonight. National League West, the leaders, the Dodgers, lost today. They were beaten 11-3 by the Mets. Kevin Correa was hit hard. Lucas Duda had a couple of home runs for the Mets, but the Giants lost as well, 14-6 to the Nationals in a game in which they led 5-0. So the Giants are still 4.5 back of the Dodgers in the National League West, and sounds like Tim Lincecum is coming out of the San Francisco rotation.
Ryan Vogelsong was staked to a 5-0 lead, I believe, in that game. Steven Strasburg started for the Nationals, and he couldn't hold it.
No. Lazy fly ball into right field to end the inning. 7th inning stretch. Jared Weaver in command. We'll get ready to take them out again when we come back. ESPN Sunday Night Baseball, presented by Taco Bell, is brought to you by Blue Moon Brewing Company, artfully crafted, and Mazda, conviction, creativity, courage. This is the Mazda way. All Angels as we go to the bottom of the 7th. They're up 9-0 on the A's. A number of changes defensively for the Angels. We'll get to those momentarily. Josh Reddick leads it off for Oakland. Efren Navarro is now at first base for Albert Pujols. Johnny Mack, John McDonald at short for Eric Ibar. And Colin Cowgill is in left field for Josh Hamilton. Reddick's 0 for 2. It has been an impressive performance from Jared Weaver tonight. 6 innings, 4 hits, no walks, 7 strikeouts. looking for his 14th win of the season. That's how many Scott Casmir has. Came into the game with 14, got knocked out early. Max Scherzer won his American League leading 15th earlier today for the Tigers. And off the end of the bat, just kind of served into left field, a base hit for Reddick. Now Derek Norris 0 for 2 with a couple of strikeouts. Looking forward to seeing the Royals next weekend?
I am. I'm looking forward to seeing that power arms. I'm looking forward to seeing my idol, Billy Big Country Breakfast Butler.
Why is he your idol?
Think about it. You haven't been gone that long.
No, that's true.
1 week away.
Yeah. They're pretty good.
Yes, they are.
I mean, they've been streaky all year, and just when you kind of finally were about to give up on them for the last time, they go on a tear.
Yeah. Looking forward to seeing Alex Gordon, too. A lot of adversity early in his career being compared to George Brett. You know, the first-round pick, and third base didn't work out for him. They finally said, you know, we'll give him a shot in left field, and ever since he's moved to left field, he's become that offensive player that the Royals thought they were getting when they first drafted him out of Nebraska, right?
They had so much trouble hitting earlier in the year. You're right about those power arms. Ooh. Who are we going to see, Peter? We think we're going to see Danny Duffy. I think it's going to be Duffy for Kansas City. As Norris strikes out for the third time. That is number 8. Let's take a look at tonight's pitching summary, brought to you by Thompson's Water Seal. And as mentioned, it has been a tidy performance so far tonight for Jared Weaver.
And the second to the last little column there, the walks, 0.
Well, here's a well-struck ball off the bat of Callaspo. It is gone.
It's 9-2 now in the bottom of the 7th inning with 1 out, and the fans are all still here. They're all still cheering. Like we said earlier, though, they do have a flair for the dramatic.
And back to a curveball for strike 1 on Eric Sogard. For Callaspo, his 4th home run of the season, RBIs number 38 and 39. It had been a while between home runs for the former Angel. Oh, broken bat pop up on the infield. Easy play for Beckham, 2 down.
Jared Weaver hasn't made many mistakes in this game, but this is one of them right here. You see looked like he tried to get that running fastball to run away from Callaspo, hope to get a rollover grounder to second, and it stayed middle in and elevated, and Callaspo just puts a good swing on it, hits that ball out 9-2, and runs the gauntlet right there and gets all his high fives. Jared Weaver's basically okay. It's 9-2. We're still in good shape.
Yeah, it's not like his demeanor has changed a whole lot. Mike Morin is up in the pen for the Angels.
It's not a good sign. Your pitcher's warming up. You got to call timeout to get a ball off the field. He's asking the bullpen coach for another one.
Threw one into right field.
Well, happened in Wrigley a lot with certain closers. I'm not going to mention names, but Rich Williams.
Now Andy Perino with a fly ball to deep right field and gone. First of the season, second major league home run for Andy Perino, and it is 9-3. The life has come back to the crowd here in Oakland. Look of concern on the face of Mike Scioscia. Here's Coco Crisp.
And a lot of times you think, okay, guy gave up 2 home runs in, he's going to try to throw this one through the catcher, and nope, let's throw a slow breaking ball.
Listen to this place, down 9-3. $36,067. And recorded as the 14th sellout of the season. Some bailed when it was 9-0. Those who have stayed are having a good time. Into left field, that's a base hit. And Mike Scioscia's on his way to the mound. And there's the call. The end will come suddenly here in the 7th for Weaver after he cruised through 6. Still, of course, in line for a W, but 2 homers, 3 runs given up this inning as he makes his way off the field. Jared Weaver gives up a couple of home runs and 3 runs. 1 runner on his responsibility. He's knocked out of the game here in the 7th. The Angels still up 9-3. Let's go down to Dallas Braden to break down his night for us.
Thanks, guys. What Jared had working tonight was that curveball. And, you know, he's not toting around that 95-mile-an-hour cheese biscuit of a fastball that we're used to seeing. So the guts, the guile, and the pitchability really showed through tonight. Expanding the zone with the curveball, as you see here, but throwing it for strikes. And there's a difference between throwing with a pitch and commanding a pitch, and that's what he did tonight. He commanded the fastball up when he needed to and was able to go to that breaking ball for strikes and putaways later in the game.
And still in line for win number 14 if the bullpen can bring it home for the Angels. Right-hander Mike Moore in a very strong season. The Angels bullpen, which was a negative early in the season, has become a big positive here later in the season. A number of changes within the bullpen, including the acquisitions of Houston Street, Jason Grilli. Sam Fuld 0 for 3. we are fortunate enough in October we get a chance to work on the playoffs on the radio side for ESPN Radio. And I have not done a series here in the last 2 years, both of which went 5 games. They lost to the Tigers, Verlander both times, but I can only imagine what the atmosphere is like in October in this place.
I can imagine it's when they get that upper deck full, that'll probably add, what, another 20,000 probably?
I think they do it just from foul pole around the foul pole, not out on Matt Davis.
Center.
Yeah. But still, a lot of extra people, a lot of extra noise. It's a facility that's had its fair share of issues, but one that, when the people come, it's still got a great atmosphere. Full will ground out to end the inning. They get 3. Weaver's out of the game. End of 7. 9-3 Angels. Welcome back to Oakland, where the Angels still have a 6-run lead, 9-3, as we go to the top of the 8th inning after a couple of home runs from the A's in the bottom of the inning. Leadoff hitter Cole Calhoun, 3 for 4 on the night, Crucky.
Yeah, and all 3 of his hits came with 2 strikes, 2 of them on 0-2 counts. Here's his first at bat. Casmir tried to get a breaking ball down and probably bounce it. There's another 1-2 pitch, a fastball that stayed in the center of the plate even though it was down. Then an 0-2 pitch by Casmir, a hanging breaking ball. A base hit to right center field for Cole Calhoun, his 3rd hit of the game. And Dan, when you have a leadoff hitter who is not afraid to hit with 2 strikes like we saw Cole Calhoun do tonight, it makes the rest of that lineup so much better. And that's pretty much what was the demise of Casmir in this game, was he couldn't put guys away with 2 strikes, and Cole Calhoun was a leader of that group in this one tonight.
Fernando Abad is into the game for the A's. And a sweeping breaking ball in for a strike. And yes, he did, says Mike Everett. It's 0-2. Right-hander Fernando Salas is now up in the Angels' pen. Bleacher, the pitching coach, alongside of Mike Scioscia. He's got Casmir 3+ innings, 7 runs on 10 hits. Jesse Chavez went 3 innings as well, gave up 2 runs, including the home run to Mike Trout. Dan Otero worked to scoreless 7th, and now Fernando Abad here in the 8th. Fastball at 93 in on his hands. As a left-handed batter, when you're getting 93 in on your hands and about 72 sweeping down and away, what's the game plan?
Hope to foul it off and hope he makes a mistake. And he's made some really good pitches. Abad has to Cole Calhoun in this at bat. Like you said, the sweeping breaking ball, fastball running in on his hands. Hope at some point he makes a mistake and you can square it up.
Pulled foul.
It's a changeup.
A lot of lefties won't throw changeups to left-handed batters.
Well, and that's why. Thing gets elevated just a little bit, it gets hit pretty hard. You see Abad right here. I mean, he slowed everything up when he threw that one. When he's throwing his fastball and that hard breaking ball, his movements are really quick to release the ball. And that one there, you can tell he slowed up. Probably why he doesn't throw it a whole lot. But 9-3 in the 8th. If you're going to work on something, let's work on this one.
Fighting it off, staying alive. Again, the 1-2. And the fastball misses high.
I mean, if you're, well, that's not Mike Trout, but if you're Mike Trout, you got to feel like I've seen every pitch right now that Abad has in his repertoire. Fastball, sweeping curve, slider, and a changeup.
He has seen 8 pitches so far. In and out of the glove of Norris, so Calhoun will see another.
Now you mentioned, to go back to the Oakland catching situation with the acquisition of Giovanni Soto, it's, and you mentioned that Vogt can't catch because of his foot, and Jaso suffering from the concussions, and this would be a game, I'm sure, where Bob Melvin would love to get Derek Norris out, give him a few innings before they go to Houston to start a road trip. But he has to stay in there for 9.
Finally gets him. Fastball up and in, swing and a miss, 1 down. A little grumbling and muttering from Calhoun as he makes his way back to the dugout. Here comes Mike Trout. Here's what he did last time up.
A high fastball, 90 miles an hour. That's the danger. You think, oh, we can pitch up and get him out. But once that ball's elevated, if he can get on top of it, wow, it'll go.
2 for 4 on the night. And over the outside edge for a strike. changeup misses away. Usually you hear about a 10-mile-an-hour difference between a fastball and a changeup. Abad's got about a 20-mile-an-hour difference between fastball and changeup.
And he telegraphs it really well too, which is not a good thing. But you know, with this, like you said, this is a great time to work on it.
Deep again, but it stays in the park for full. 2 down. Celebrate Sunday all season long with special ticket offers. Head to the ballpark with your friends and family. Go to MLB.com/Sunday. Follow every Major League Baseball game with MLB.com at about on your favorite mobile device. Get live look-ins, instant replays, scores, stats, audio, free MLB.TV game of the day, and more. Download it from the App Store or visit MLB.com for details. Efren Navarro will bat now. Came on defensively last half inning for Albert Pujols at first. And the breaking ball for strike 1. Morales had 3 different stints with the Angels this year. Originally was chosen in the 50th round of the 2007 draft. Good for him to make it all the way to the big leagues.
Very good. And very difficult, because you had to outperform a lot of higher draft picks to get to where you are. Not to outperform them by a lot.
Because it's not like they had a lot of money invested.
No. Well, you wouldn't bank in the 50th round, but you know, when you're playing alongside first, second, third rounders, their 250 is better than your 270. Not that those two.
But those guys lived a bit of a different.
Yeah, they had.
There were no 50th rounders there.
No.
Navarro from Linwood, California, 28 years of age.
Now, do they carry those in?
Yeah.
Interesting.
High strike 3 call, and the inning is over. A's coming up, trying to keep the momentum going in their favor. ESPN Sunday Night Baseball is presented by Taco Bell. Sometimes you gotta live Mas. And in part by the makers of One A Day Men's, the official multivitamin of MLB, specially formulated for men. Jared Weaver looking for his 14th win of the season tonight. He has turned it over to the bullpen. It's 9-3 Angels going bottom 8. Fernando Salas facing Stephen Vogt.
The last thing you want to do if you're Mike Scioscia is for Oakland to get a few guys on base and maybe have to bring in some of your key relievers that have helped you get to this place of being tied for first place. You know, this is one of those the bullpen for the most part with 9 runs is relaxing. The last thing you want to do is get that helter-skelter of having to try to get them up and get them ready if Salas can't hold this thing down.
Jepson, Smith, Street. Hot shot down to first, picked nicely by Navarro, 1 down. Well, the Angels, when you think of them, they're kind of top-heavy in name recognition with Trout and Pujols and Hamilton and some others, but they've had a lot of guys who have had really good seasons for them. We talked a lot about Cole Calhoun. We mentioned Matt Shoemaker as well. These are their numbers entering tonight, but 2 guys out of the bullpen who don't get a lot of attention, Joe Smith and Kevin Jepson, who are tied for the American League lead in appearances. And Smith can pitch in any role. Now, he did throw a wild pitch, winning run last night for the A's, eventual winning run, but he's had a magnificent season, and he can face righties and lefties. He can close, he can set up, and Jepson's got closer stuff. He's got 96, 97.
Without question, he does. He's great velocity, and Joe Smith is a guy that is a rarity, a 3/4 sidearm pitcher, but who can also pitch to left-handed batters. Most of those guys, sidearm guys, whether they're left-handed or right-handed, can only face one or the other. They're not effective at both, and that's what makes it so much. What gives a reason why the Angels don't have a lefty in their bullpen, because they have right-handers who can get lefties out.
They do have Joe Thatcher on the DL. They expect him back, and that will strengthen the pen. But right now they've got 7 righties, including, as you say, some righties who are pretty good at getting out lefties. And again, if you talk about closers in terms of name recognition, Houston Street is not at the top of the list. All he does is get the job done.
He does.
All he does is save ball games.
It seems to me like he has a great knack of reading hitters.
High drive to right, but this one will stay in the yard. 2 down. Let's go down to Buster.
Guys, you were talking about matching up with bullpens, and remember, if we get into the postseason where you have Baltimore and Oakland, those are 2 teams that are absolutely loaded with right-handers and left-handers. That could be an advantage for those teams and maybe a disadvantage for the Angels.
Yeah, with Baltimore picking up Andrew Miller to really strengthen them from the left side.
With Mattis, with Zach Britton.
2 down, here's Josh Reddick. Reddick tonight 1 for 3. Singleton scored on the Callaspo home run an inning ago. Play 1 and 2.
Have you ever thought about like going to watch a spectator sport and bringing a drum?
No. No. But it's not like there's only 2 or 3 of them here. That's a thing here.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. But you know what? It's great.
It is. It's there's nothing wrong with it. I just
the flags and the drums and the cowbells.
Never would have thought to bring a drum to a ball game.
There's no other park in baseball in a game in this inning with this score that would have this much.
And a lot of them, most of them, this place would be empty.
changeup to get him. 3 up, 3 down go the A's in the bottom of the 8th. Angels 9, A's 3 as we go to the top of the 9th. More Major League action coming your way this week, beginning with the Yankees and the Royals on a Monday Night Baseball presented by USAA. Wednesday Night Baseball presented by T-Mobile. The Yankees in Detroit, and we will be at Kauffman Stadium 1 week from tonight as the Indians visit the Royals. Sunday Night Baseball presented by Taco Bell. Play ESPN and MLB.com's new game, Sunday Night Showdown. Who will tally the most total bases? Will it be Michael Brantley and Carlos Santana, or will it be Alex Gordon and Billy Butler? Make your pick now at ESPN.com/MLB Showdown for your chance to win 4 2015 opening day tickets to a team of your choice. Ryan Cook comes on out of the Oakland pen for his 45th appearance. A righty who is notoriously tough on right-handed batters. They're hitting just $149 off him this year. And he will face Cowgill, Kendrick, and Freeze. Cowgill came on defensively a couple of innings ago for Josh Hamilton. Draws a crowd, and it'll be Casmir, the third baseman, making the catch. 1 pitch, 1 out. Now Howie Kendrick, 1 for 3 with a walk. Also had an RBI single back in the 4th inning. The Angels jumped on Scott Casmir pretty early tonight. They got 3 in the 2nd. The big hit, a 2-run double by Eric Ibar. They got 2 more in the 3rd on a home run by Josh Hamilton. And they added 3 more in the 4th. RBIs to Pujols, Hamilton, and Kendrick. Mike Trout homered in the 6th. The A's made some noise in the bottom of the 7th. Home runs by Caspo and Perino. So if it holds up, the Angels will be back on top, a game ahead of the A's for top spot in the American League West and for the best record in all of baseball. You can see why he's tough on righties with that slider.
Yeah, not only the slider, but that running fastball too at 94, 95.
Jason Grilli is up. Acquired from the Pirates. All going well from an Angel perspective. They'll get to rest Smith, Jepson, and Street. Strike 3 called to the knees, 2 down.
don't think I'm blaming Howie Kendrick for asking about that, where that pitch was. We know Cook has a great fastball that comes back, but and you got to love that 9-3. You got a guy who's an everyday player, Howie Kendrick. He's getting the day off, so to speak, by DHing, and he's still grinding out an at bat at 9-3 in the 9th inning.
Two down. Here's David Freese, 1 for 4. How much Little League World Series did you watch over the last week or so?
I watched a whole bunch. Yeah. It was, I mean, my Lord, those kids are so big.
Congratulations to the group from South Korea, defeated the team from Illinois to win the Little League World Series championship earlier today.
We have to congratulate the team from Illinois, though, for winning the U.S. championship. That was kids throwing 75 miles an hour,
which is like 100 from 60 feet, because they're throwing from 46 feet.
Have you ever been there?
Yes, I went 2 years ago.
I think I was there when you came. Yeah.
Took my son, and we watched like 5 games in 2 days and then went home.
It's a great event. It's an unbelievable event. Of course, Carl Ravitch now the face of Little League Baseball, apparently.
It was great. Watching some of the teams warm up was as interesting as some of the games. All the different strategies and techniques they have. Innings over as Freese grounds out. We are going to the bottom of the 9th. Welcome back to ESPN Sunday Night Baseball, presented by Taco Bell. Sports Center comes your way after the conclusion of the ballgame, including the Sunday conversation with Mike Trout and a look at the 49ers and their offensive woes. 9-3 Angels going to the bottom of the 9th. Jason Grilli is on the mound for the Angels. Derek Norris is the first batter for Oakland. First pitch swinging, that's a base hit. Grilli acquired from Pittsburgh for Ernesto Frieri, 2 pitchers who had been struggling, one of those change of scenery deals, and so far it has favored the Angels. Grilli lost his job as the closer earlier this year with Pittsburgh. Last year had 33 saves.
Yeah, he was lights out until he got hurt, and Like you said, a change of scenery has been good for him, but Ernesto Frieri is in the minor leagues right now and trying to figure it out.
There's Casmir, who homered his last time up. He's also doubled and struck out. We've talked a lot about the Angel rotation with Richards out and how that changes things, but it's a group, Crucky. If they can get a good 6 innings out of their starter, they've got the potential to really shorten games with the quality arms they've got at the end of the pen.
Yeah, they sure do. Like you said, if they can get it into this bullpen in the 7th inning. We mentioned all the guys in the bullpen, the power arm. Houston Street at the end that Mike Scioscia said has great intestinal fortitude.
Aspo fights it off. We spent some time talking with Mike Scioscia about the blocking the plate rule. And like many, he's got an opinion on. Now, he was a guy who blocked the plate as well as anybody. He doesn't want to see runners or catchers get hurt, but obviously he thinks that maybe, it's swung too far, and now, some of the plays that are being reviewed, it's kind of not real baseball. There's a ball line into left field, and that's a base hit. And Scioscia was of the opinion that maybe something's got to be done this year before the playoffs start, that the offseason's not early enough.
Well, we've seen some where the catcher's standing, receives the ball and the runner's 15 feet away, and they come out and argue. The other manager will come out to argue, said he was blocking the plate and, didn't give our guy a lane, but, if you start sliding 15 feet away, there's a pretty good chance you ain't going to make it to home plate. So I think there's some things that need to, and I'm sure Major League Baseball will iron them out.
Here's Eric Sogard. First 2 men have reached in the bottom of the 9th. And that has gotten the bullpen busy again, something Mike Scioscia didn't want to have to do, but he's got his closer up just in case.
When it's 9-0, the last thing you're thinking about is Houston Street in this game. But
Street just tossing lightly at the moment. Saw that unicorn backpack, by the way, that fan was wearing. That's something that one of the A's relievers takes down to the bullpen with all the seeds and the gum and so forth, whoever the junior member of the crew is. And it was unicorn backpack giveaway nights tonight here at O.Co Coliseum. Check the swing on the appeal. That's confirmed. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
Here it's not bad because you could sit in the dugout, then run down the bullpen if you need to get loose and see where the dugout. They have a dugout for the bullpen down there, down the left field line or right field line for both teams. But think about what those guys on a day-to-day basis do. They usually normally sit behind the wall and either look through a glass panel or try to look over the fence to watch a ball game. You'd have to be nuts to want that job.
Off the glove of Iannetta, and the runners advance. And that'll be a pass ball. Right center field. Caught on the warning track by Calhoun. And to score on the play, Norris. Callaspo to third on the sac fly, but the Angels will gladly give up the run to get the out. Nine 4.
And I'm sure Mike Scioscia would more than happy to give up a run for an out, even in this situation.
Andy Perino, the batter, 2 for 3, including a home run his last time up. Ball runs out of the strike zone, ball 1.
You can see Iannetta having a little difficulty here with Grill. He had the wild pitch or the pass ball, and that pitch there, it looked like it handcuffed him with the late movement.
Back in the 7th, his first home run of the season, second of his major league career.
That's a center cut pitch by Jared Weaver that, when you have a big lead, sometimes those pitches happen. But give Perino credit, still got to hit it.
Pulled foul. Number 9 hitter Andy Perino giving Grilli a battle. A run in, 1 out, a runner at third, 9-4, bottom 9. Strike 3 called, 2 down.
That pitch looked like it came back. We know Grilli has a great movement on his fastball. We've seen that. And that one just caught that bottom quadrant of home plate. And if you've been watching this game, the strike zone has not been a large strike zone, but it has been a fair strike zone. Howie Kendrick got called out on a pitch that was a little bit out of the strike zone, and right there Perino gets rung up on a pitch that's borderline.
So the A's down to their final out, back to the top of the order for Coco Crisp. Ball 2. Rally caps, drums, whatever it takes. Two-0 breaking ball for a strike.
I mean, I'm sure that's what Coco Crisp was looking for. 9-4, 9th inning, 2 outs, 2-0 hook. I'm sure if that was a ball, Mike Scioscia would have been really upset.
And right back with another one, 2-2.
And now throwing the other one, what the heck?
Healy didn't go, and the count is full.
I'd love to tell you he's going to throw a fastball here, but I wouldn't bet you. I want to see the manager's reaction if he throws a 3-2 breaking ball for a ball right here with a 5-run lead.
He threw the breaking ball, but he gets strike 3 called at the knees, and the Angels win it 9-4. They take the final game of the series after losing the first 2, and that puts the Angels back on top by a game atop the American League West. Big series here. Oakland takes 2 out of 3. The Angels win tonight. They'll meet for 4 beginning Thursday night down in Anaheim in a race that is sure to be an entertaining one all the way down to the end of the season. Final score here in Oakland, the Angels 9 and the A's 4. ESPN's Major League Baseball coverage continues tomorrow night at 7 Eastern. It'll be the Yankees in Kansas City. Coming up next tonight is Sports Center, including a conversation with Mike Trout. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. So long from Oakland.